Hello, my name is Lo and I am Armenian. April 24, 2021 is the 106th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. On this day in 1915, the Ottoman Empire military rounded up hundreds of Armenian activists and intellectuals from their homes. They tortured these community leaders, forced them to confess to a false Armenian conspiracy against the Ottoman Empire, and slaughtered them in an attempt to weaken our culture. Over the next decade, the Ottoman Empire murdered 1.5 million Armenians, as well as 500,000 Greeks and 250,000 Assyrians. They systematically deported and exterminated these Christian minorities, and in doing so, inspired Hitler to do the same to the Jewish minorities 25 years later. And in 2020, Turkey and Azerbaijan joined forces to suppress the Armenian majority territory of Artsakh in their struggle for independence. Anti-Armenian violence continues in Turkey to this day, yet the Turkish government still aggressively denies any past or present wrongdoing. And following suit, the United States and Australian governments also continually refuse to acknowledge the genocide.
Okay, so apparently Biden did actually use the word genocide today, in between the time that I recorded this video and when I edited it. So that's pretty neat, but I think my general points still stand that that is not enough. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in there.
Now, since I'm currently in Australia, April 24th was yesterday. Hundreds of people already gathered in Sydney and Melbourne to unsuccessfully pressure the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, to acknowledge the genocide. And these protests got me thinking. We marched together and demanded justice for our people and chanted 1915 never again. And now we're waiting with tense anticipation to see if Joe Biden will recognize the genocide today. Of course, I support these efforts for genocide recognition, but I also wonder if we're going far enough. After all, what good would it do for Australia or the United States to recognize the Armenian Genocide of 1915 while still actively and complacently supporting current genocides in their own countries and all over the world? These are the same governments that slaughtered indigenous people and still refuse to give the land back to its traditional custodians. These are the same governments that consistently support Israeli oppression and occupation of Palestine and deny Palestine's statehood. These are the same governments that turn refugees away at the border or lock them up for years when they try to escape genocide in their own countries. Are we surprised that they also ignore Turkey's historical and ongoing attempts to exterminate the Armenian people? Should we be satisfied with our government officials simply saying the words Armenian genocide on April 24th? A few years ago, my mom created a Facebook group called Armenians for Trump. She has since amassed over 5,000 Armenians who demand recognition and justice for their own suffering, yet actively support a man who causes suffering for others. They're so loyal to Trump that they are even willing to forego their own interests. When Trump rejected the bipartisan resolution to acknowledge the genocide in 2019, my mom and her Facebook friends capitulated and said that Trump did what was right and put America first. They supported Trump in his ban on migration from Syria, despite the fact that many Armenians, including my mother's own mother, have lived in Syria for generations and may have needed to flee to America for their own safety. They supported Trump's conspiracy theory that it was a terrorist attack and not a negligent corporation or government that caused the explosion in Beirut, where many Armenians have also lived for generations, and where my mother herself was born. Their hatred and xenophobia is so strong that they are even willing to hurt themselves as long as they can maintain some feeble sense of superiority over Muslims, liberals, refugees, whatever group. At the protest in Melbourne, I looked around and wondered how many of the people in this crowd are part of or sympathetic to that Facebook group. If I tried to compare the Armenian Genocide to the current Uyghur Genocide in China, would they tell me to shut up? If I looked more apparently queer in front of them, would they give me dirty looks? If I invited them to the rally on May 8th to free the refugees who are imprisoned just a few blocks away, would they show up? If I explained that all oppression is linked and that any real solution requires us all to stand in solidarity, would they listen? Or do they, like my mom and her Facebook friends, only care about genocide survivors and their descendants if they're Christian? Our governments aren't refusing to acknowledge the genocide because they're misinformed or unaware of it. In fact, both the President of the US and the Prime Minister of Australia have acknowledged it in the past when they held lower positions in the government. But they don't acknowledge it officially because they're worried about losing Turkey as an ally in their continued invasion and decimation of the Middle East. So Armenians should share the same interests as the people of Afghanistan, Palestine, Syria, and beyond. We should all be fighting together. We should all be pressuring our governments to stop funneling money into drone strikes and right-wing coup attempts. We should all be protesting to end our allyships with any and all fascist or proto-fascist governments, not just asking our leaders to say the word genocide. It's the same governments and the same ruling class that commit genocide and other atrocities in Armenia, in the Middle East, in the United States, and in Australia. Also, they can get more oil or more land or more human labor force. Our global capitalist system encourages the people with money and power to endlessly accumulate more of it. They continue prioritizing profit and slaughtering people in that pursuit. And if we want actual justice and advancement, if we actually mean it when we say 1915 never again, we need to radically change the capitalist system itself. We as Armenians must stand in solidarity with all oppressed people. We can't just be fighting for genocide recognition when there's so much more work to be done. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. Please leave a comment letting me know what you think, and please be respectful as you do so. Feel free to like and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and yeah, thanks.